My grandson, Ethan, called me at 6 in the morning. The phone vibrated against the nightstand with that kind of insistence that only brings bad news or wonderful surprises. I opened my eyes slowly, still wrapped in the thick fog of sleep, and saw his name lit up on the screen. Ethan, my grandson, the son of my son who is no longer here. I answered with a racing heart, because at that hour nothing good usually comes. His voice sounded different, trembling, broken, as if he had been crying or was holding back something too huge for his 16 years. "Grandma," he said, "don't wear your red dress today, please." I asked him why, but he barely took a deep breath before answering, "You'll understand soon." And then he hung up, just like that, without explanations, without saying goodbye. I stayed there, sitting on the bed, the phone still warm in my hand, feeling something icy crawl down my back. I tried to call him back. Once, twice, 3 times. Nothing. Voicemail, message after message. "Ethan, answer me. I'm worried. What's wrong? Tell me something." But the silence on the other end was worse than any answer. I got up. My legs were shaking. Not because of age, though I am 64 years old, and sometimes my knees remind me of every past winter. No, they were shaking with fear. With that feeling, all mothers and grandmothers know when something is wrong with our children, even if we don't know exactly what. I walked to the closet. I opened the doors slowly as if the answer might be hidden inside. And there it was. My red dress, hanging in the center. Impeccable, freshly washed. It was my favorite, the one I wore to go downtown, for my doctor's appointments, to feel alive again. Red like the poppies that grew in my mother's garden. Red like the life that still beats inside me. I reached out to take it, but I stopped. Ethan's words echoed in my head like an alarm bell. "Don't wear your red dress today." There was something in his tone, something that was neither a teenage whim nor a bad joke. It was a warning. It was real fear. I stepped back. I closed the closet. And for the first time in years, I obeyed without understanding. I put on a grey sweater, black pants, clothes that made me invisible. Clothes that any woman my age would wear without drawing attention. As I dressed, I looked out the window. The sky was low, covered with grey clouds that threatened rain. The streets were still empty. The neighborhood was asleep. Everything seemed normal, but I knew it wasn't. I went down to the kitchen. I put water on to boil for tea. My hands moved on their own, following the 30-year routine. But my mind was elsewhere. On Ethan. On that call. On the red dress hanging in the closet like a warning I still didn't comprehend. I thought about calling Jennifer, my daughter-in-law. She had lived with Ethan since my son died 3 years ago. A car accident, a rainy night, a curve taken too fast. And suddenly my world split in two. Before that night, and after. Jennifer became a widow at 35. I lost my only son, and Ethan lost his father. But something had changed in Jennifer after the funeral. She became distant, cold, as if the pain had turned her into someone I no longer recognized. She stopped visiting me. She stopped answering my calls. And when she did, her answers were short, empty, as if I were an obligation and not family. Ethan was different. He came to see me every week. He brought me flowers. He told me about school. He hugged me with that strength only those who still believe hugs can save lives have. And maybe they can. But this morning, his voice was not the same. There was something broken in it. Something that told me whatever was happening was bigger than him, bigger than me, more dangerous than I could imagine. I looked at the clock. At 7:15, I had a doctor's appointment at 10, downtown. I would have to take the 9:30 subway, the same subway I had taken every month for years, the same route, the same station, the same predictable life I built after my husband died 3 years ago. Living alone teaches you things. It teaches you to listen to the silence, to trust your gut, to recognize when something doesn't fit. And this morning, nothing fit. I picked up my purse. I checked that I had everything: wallet, keys, phone, medical documents, everything in its place, all normal. But as I was about to leave, I looked back toward the stairs, up toward the second floor, toward the closet where the red dress still hung, waiting. And that's when I knew it. Hours later, when I saw what I was about to see, when my blood ran cold and my world crumbled again, I would understand why my grandson had called me, crying, at 6 in the morning. I would understand why his voice trembled, why he begged me not to wear that dress. But at that moment, closing the door of my house, walking toward the station with the grey sky over my head, I still didn't know. I still believed that danger was something distant, something that happened to other people, in other cities, in other lives. I didn't know that danger had already knocked on my door, that it was already inside my family, that it had already chosen its victim, and that victim was supposed to be me. I left the house at 9 o'clock. The air was cold, biting, with that smell of wet earth that announces a storm. The streets of my neighborhood were quieter than usual. Some neighbors were taking out the trash. A woman was walking her dog. A man was washing his car with slow, mechanical movements. Everyday life. Routine. Nothing out of place. I walked the 4 blocks to the station. My steps echoed against the pavement. I had been doing this same route for years. I knew every crack in the sidewalk, every tree, every house. This neighborhood had been my home for more than 30 years. Here, I raised my son. Here I grew old with my husband. Here I stayed alone when they both left. Loneliness has a specific weight. It's not something you can see or touch, but it's there. In the house that's too big, in the table with only one chair, in the conversations you have with yourself because there is no one else to listen. At first, after my husband died, I thought I would go crazy. The silence was so dense I could feel it pressing against my ears. But over time, I learned to live with it, to make it my companion, my only constant company. Ethan was my light in the middle of that darkness. Every time he came to visit me, he brought laughter, stories, life. He told me about his classes, his friends, his dreams of studying architecture someday. "I want to design houses where people are happy, Grandma," he would tell me. "Houses with big windows, so a lot of light comes in. Because light scares away sadness." I always answered that he already did that every time he walked through my door, he brought light with him. But this morning, that light had gone out. His voice on the phone had been pure darkness, pure fear. And I was walking toward the station without understanding what shadow had crept into his life, into our life. I arrived at the station at 9:20. The building was old, one of those built in the 1950s, with high ceiling and dirty windows that let in a murky light. It smelled of old coffee, wet newspaper, and compressed humanity. People waited on the platforms with that empty expression we all put on when we are trapped in routine, looking at their phones, looking into the infinite, looking at nothing. I took my usual spot. 3rd column from the main entrance. From there I could see the station clock and check when my subway would arrive. I have always been punctual, methodical. My husband used to say I could set all the clocks in the world just by looking at my calendar. I took out my phone. I tried to call Ethan again. Nothing. I tried Jennifer. Voicemail. I wrote a text. I am worried. Ethan called me this morning and sounded wrong. Is everything okay? Send. The 2 blue check marks appeared immediately. Message read. But there was no reply. That seemed strange to me. Jennifer always answered fast. Too fast. As if she were glued to her phone all day. Waiting. Checking. Watching. I put my cell phone away and looked around. The station had filled up more. Executives with briefcases, students with huge backpacks, women with baby strollers, elderly people like me with that tired gait of those who have walked too much in life, all waiting for the same train, all going somewhere, all believing that the day would be normal. It was then that I saw her, on the other side of the platform, a woman about 40 years old, brown hair pulled back in a ponytail, thick-framed glasses, and a red dress. Exactly like mine. The same shade, the same cut, the same style. Like a distorted mirror image of myself, 30 years younger. My heart skipped a beat. She was walking nervously. She checked her phone constantly. She bit her lower lip. Her eyes darted from side to side as if looking for someone, or as if she wanted to make sure no one was following her. There was something in her posture, in the way she held her purse against her chest, in how she stayed close to the edge of the platform. Something was wrong. And then I remembered Ethan's call. Don't wear your red dress today. You'll understand soon. A chill ran down my spine. I felt the hairs on my arms stand up. My breathing quickened. Something inside me, that primitive instinct all women have, started screaming at me to run away, to get out of there, not to look. But I couldn't stop looking. The woman in the red dress took a few more steps closer to the edge. The train was announced. I could hear the metallic roar approaching through the tunnel. The characteristic wind that always arrives before the machines. The smell of iron and electricity. People prepared themselves. They moved toward the edge, ready to board as soon as the doors opened. The usual routine, the mechanical ballet of every morning. But I didn't move. My eyes were fixed on that woman, on that red dress that should have been on my body, on that scene that was beginning to unfold like a slow-motion horror movie. The train appeared, the bright lights, the deafening sound. And just as it was yards away, just as it started to break, I saw something that chilled my blood. A hand emerging from the crowd, pushing the woman in the red dress. She screamed, a scream that was lost in the noise of the train. Her arms flailed in the air, searching for something to grab. Her eyes were wide, full of terror, and she fell. She fell toward the tracks. She fell toward the approaching train. She fell like a broken doll. The sound that followed cannot be described. It was metal against flesh. It was screeching brakes. It was people screaming. It was the world breaking into pieces. It was the end of something, the beginning of something else. I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't process what I had just seen. People were running, some toward the exit, others toward the accident site. Someone was yelling to call an ambulance. Another was crying. A woman was throwing up in a corner. But I could only look at that red dress, now stained, now torn, now turned into a shroud. And it was in that instant, with my legs shaking and tears burning my eyes, that I understood Ethan's words. When I understood the warning. When I understood that the dead woman on the tracks, that stranger in my exact dress, was supposed to be me. Someone had planned to kill me this morning. Someone knew I wore that dress. Someone knew I would be at this station, at this hour, on this platform, and someone had targeted the wrong victim. I looked around, desperate, trying to find the person who had pushed. But the crowd was chaotic. Everyone was moving, everyone was screaming, everyone was running. It was impossible to distinguish the killer in the panic. I moved away from the platform. My legs barely held me up. I reached a bench and let myself fall onto it. I took out my phone with trembling hands. I called Ethan again. This time he answered on the first ring. "Grandma," he whispered. His voice sounded terrified. "You're okay. Please tell me you're okay." "I'm okay," I managed to say. But something terrible just happened. A woman, in a dress like mine, someone pushed her onto the train tracks. I heard him hold his breath. A heavy silence. And then, in a voice that was barely a thread, "I am so sorry, Grandma. I tried to warn you, I tried to save you, but I didn't know how to tell you without you thinking I was crazy." "Ethan," I whispered, "what is going on? Who wants to hurt me?" "I can't talk right now," he said quickly. "She is close, but I have to tell you something. Something I found out. Something terrible. I'll see you at your house at 6 o'clock. Don't tell anyone you spoke to me. Anyone. Grandma. Not even her." And he hung up. The police arrived in less than 10 minutes. First the patrol cars, then the ambulance. After that, the detectives. The station became a hive of uniforms, flashing lights and voices giving orders. They cordoned off the area. They asked everyone to stay to give testimony. Some obeyed. Others disappeared into the crowd, fleeing from bureaucracy or their own fears. I stayed seated on that bench, watching the scene as if it were unreal, as if I were watching a movie and not my life. A young officer approached. He had a serious, professional face, but his eyes betrayed that this affected him too. No one gets used to violent death, no matter how much it's part of their job. "Mum, I need you to tell me what you saw," he said in a firm but kind voice. I told him everything. The woman in the red dress, her nervousness, the hand that came out of the crowd, the shove, the fall, the horror. I spoke in a mechanical voice, as if reading a script that someone else had written, because that's how it felt. As if this wasn't my story, as if I shouldn't be here. "Did you see who pushed her?" the officer asked, writing in a small notebook. I shook my head. It happened very fast. There were a lot of people. I only saw the hand, but it was intentional. It was not an accident. Someone pushed her deliberately. The officer nodded. "We will review the security cameras. I need your contact information in case we have more questions." I gave him my name, my address, my phone number. He wrote it all down and told me I could leave, but that I should be available for additional statements. I stood up. My legs were still trembling. I walked toward the exit with uncertain steps, feeling all eyes fixed on my back. Did they know? Did they know that woman had died in my place? I left the station. The fresh air hit my face like a slap. I breathed deeply. Once, twice, 3 times, trying to fill my lungs, trying to feel alive again. But it was difficult. Very difficult. I looked at my watch. At 10:15. I had missed my doctor's appointment. I would have to reschedule it. But at that moment, that was the least important thing. The important thing was to get home, to lock myself in, to wait for Ethan, to understand what the heck was going on. I took a taxi. I didn't want to get on a subway again. Maybe never again. The driver was an older man, about 60 years old, with a radio on that was broadcasting the news. I heard fragments. Accident at Grand Central Station. A woman dead. Causes under investigation. Witnesses requested. The words floated in the air like ghosts. "You came from there?" the driver asked, looking at me through the rearview mirror. "Yes," I murmured. "Terrible," he said, shaking his head. "This world is getting more dangerous. You can't even leave your house feeling safe anymore." I didn't answer. I just looked out the window. The streets passed in a blur. People walked hurriedly. Cars honked. Life went on. As always, as if nothing had happened. But for me, everything had changed. In a matter of seconds, my reality had fragmented into 1,000 pieces. I arrived home 20 minutes later. I paid the driver and got out of the car in a hurry. I opened the door with trembling hands. I went inside. I locked the door. I slid the deadbolt, the security chain. All the protections that normally seemed exaggerated to me. Today they weren't. I leaned against the door. I closed my eyes. And for the first time since I left the house this morning, I cried. I cried for that unknown woman who died in my place. I cried for the fear I felt. I cried for the confusion. I cried for Ethan and whatever he was going through. I cried because I was 64 years old and I was tired. Very tired. When I managed to control the tears, I went up to my bedroom. I went straight to the closet. I opened the doors, and there it was. The red dress, hanging where I had left it this morning. Innocent. Beautiful. Deadly. I took it down carefully, as if it might bite me. I held it up in front of me. It was just fabric, just a dress. But it had been the difference between life and death. If I had worn it, if I hadn't obeyed Ethan's warning, I would be the one in the morgue now. It would be my body they were identifying. It would be my broken bones, my spilled blood. My life ended. I dropped the dress onto the bed. I sat down next to it. And that's when I started thinking clearly, connecting the dots, asking the right questions. Who knew I wore that dress? Who knew I was going to the station today? Who had a reason to want to kill me? The answer was obvious and terrifying. My family. Jennifer. She knew my routine better than anyone. She knew that every first Tuesday of the month I went to the doctor. She knew I always took the 9:30 subway. She knew I liked that red dress. But why? Why would Jennifer want to kill me? We were family. I was the grandmother of her son, the mother of her late husband. What could she gain from my death? And then I remembered. The insurance policy. When my husband died, he left a considerable life insurance policy. $500,000. I was the beneficiary. And when I died, Ethan would inherit everything. But Ethan was a minor, which meant that Jennifer, as his legal guardian, would have control over that money until he turned 21. $500,000, a fortune for someone like Jennifer, who since my son's death had not been able to hold a stable job, who lived on the small pension she had left and her dwindling savings. I stood up. I paced the room, thinking, calculating, trying to make sense of all this. If Jennifer wanted my money, she would have to kill me, but do it in a way that looked like an accident. A shove at the station, during rush hour, amidst the crowd, easy to execute, hard to prove, perfect. But something had gone wrong. That woman, the one in the red dress. Who was she? Why was she dressed the same as me? Was it coincidence, or was there something more? I went down to the kitchen. I needed tea. I needed something hot to soothe the cold I felt in my bones. I put water on to boil. I took out a mug, and as I waited, I saw a manila envelope on the table. It hadn't been there when I left this morning. I was sure. I picked it up carefully. It had no return address, just my name, written in a handwriting I didn't recognize. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside were photographs. Many photographs. Jennifer with a man I didn't know, both entering a hotel, both kissing in a car, both at a restaurant, holding hands. The photos had dates, all from the last 6 months. Jennifer had a lover. I kept checking. There was more. Documents, bank statements, debts. Jennifer owed more than $100,000, credit cards, loans, failed investments. She was ruined, completely ruined. And on the last page, a handwritten note. Elsa, we need to talk. What Jennifer is planning is worse than you imagine. They are using you. Today at the station was not an accident. That woman was me. I was going to warn you. But they got there first. If you are reading this, it means you survived. Be careful. Don't trust anyone. Diana. Diana. The woman in the red dress was named Diana, and she had died trying to save me, trying to warn me. But who was she? How did she know about Jennifer? Why did she risk her life for me? The sound of the kettle startled me. I turned off the burner. I poured the tea with hands that no longer trembled. Now I felt something else. It was no longer just fear. It was rage. It was indignation. It was that silent fury all women know when they discover someone underestimated them, who thought they were weak, who thought they could eliminate us without consequences. Jennifer had tried to kill me, for money, for her lover, for her greed. And in the process, she had killed an innocent woman, Diana, whoever she was. I sat down at the table. I drank my tea slowly, and I started to plan. Because if I've learned one thing in 64 years of life, it's that women are stronger than we look, that we can be soft on the outside and steel on the inside, that when we are cornered, we don't give up. We fight. And I was going to fight. I looked at the clock. At 11:30, Ethan would come at 6 o'clock. That gave me time. Time to investigate, time to understand, time to prepare. I picked up my phone. I searched the internet. Diana. I needed to know who she was. I checked the news. And there it was. Diana Mendoza, forensic accountant, specialized in financial fraud. She worked independently, helping victims of scams recover their money. Everything started to fit. Jennifer had hired Diana, maybe to handle some financial matter. But Diana had discovered something that led her to investigate more, something that made her realize Jennifer's plan. And instead of staying quiet, she decided to warn me. She decided to save me. And she died for it. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. And I swore that her death would not be in vain, that Jennifer would pay, that the truth would come out, that justice, that elusive and fragile thing, would prevail. But first I needed more information. First I needed to talk to Ethan. First I needed to understand the whole plan. Because if Jennifer had gone this far, if she had killed once, nothing would stop her from trying again. And next time, there would be no mistaken dress to save me. The hours passed with agonizing slowness. I stayed home, locked in, looking at the clock every 5 minutes, as if that could speed up time. I reviewed every detail of the documents Diana had left. I studied every photograph, every bank statement, every piece of evidence of Jennifer's double life. The man in the photos was named Christian. I found out by searching on social media. Christian Maldonado, 45 years old, real estate agent, perfect smile, expensive suits, a life of appearances. On his public profile, he boasted of properties sold, exotic trips, dinners at Sikis, at exclusive restaurants. But when I dug deeper, I found something interesting. 3 years ago, he had legal problems, a lawsuit for real estate fraud. He had gotten off on legal technicalities, but the victims had lost their savings. Jennifer and Christian were the perfect couple. Two scammers, two unscrupulous people, two murderers. Because now I was sure. It hadn't been just Jennifer. Christian was also involved. He had to be. The plan was too elaborate for one person. Someone had to follow me, study my routine, wait for the exact moment. And that someone was probably him. I made more tea. I ate something. Although I wasn't hungry. My stomach had been clenched since this morning. But I knew I needed to keep up my strength. What was coming would not be easy. And I couldn't allow myself to be weak. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. My heart leapt. I approached the door carefully. I looked through the peephole. It was Theodore, my neighbour, a 70-year-old man, a widower like me, who lived 3 houses down. We had become friends over the years. We shared Sunday dinners. We talked about our deceased spouses, about loneliness, about how to survive when everyone you loved is gone. I opened the door just a crack, leaving the chain on. "Elsa," he said, his voice worried. "I saw the news. The thing at the station. They say they're looking for witnesses. You were heading there this morning, weren't you? Are you okay?" I nodded. "I'm fine, Theodore. Thank you for worrying." "Did you see what happened?" he asked, looking at me with those grey eyes that had seen too much in life. "I saw everything," I whispered. "It was horrible." Theodore looked at me in silence for a moment. Then he said something that surprised me. "You need help, Elsa, because if you are in trouble, you can trust me. Old folks like us have to look out for each other." I felt my eyes well up with tears. I had forgotten what it was like to have an ally, someone to trust. I opened the door completely. "Come in," I told him. "I have to tell you something." Theodore came in and sat down in the living room. I served him tea, and I told him everything. Ethan's call, the warning about the red dress, the woman at the station, the push, the death, Diana's documents, Jennifer's debts, the lover, the plan to kill me. Theodore listened in silence without interrupting. His face hardened with every word. When I finished, he put the cup down on the table with a dry thud. "That wicked woman," he said with a rage I had never heard from him. "How dare she, after everything you did for her? You took her in when your son died. You helped her financially. And this is how she repays you." "I need proof," I said. "Real proof that I can take to the police. Diana's documents are a start, but they are not enough. I need Jennifer to incriminate herself, to confess." "And how do you plan to achieve that?" Theodore asked. "I don't know yet," I admitted, "but Ethan is coming at 6 o'clock. He knows something he discovered. That's why he called me this morning. That's why he warned me." Theodore nodded. "Then we will wait together. You shouldn't be alone in this, Elsa. It's dangerous." I thanked him with my eyes, and we stayed there, in silence, drinking tea, waiting for 6 o'clock to arrive. At 5:30, my phone rang. It was Jennifer. My heart was sped up. I took a deep breath before answering. "Elsa," she said in a sweet, false voice. "I heard about what happened at the station this morning. How awful. Were you there?" "Yes," I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral. "It was terrible." "Thank goodness you're okay," she said. "I was so worried when Ethan told me you were going to the doctor today. How was the appointment?" "I had to cancel it," I lied. "After what I saw, I couldn't continue. I came straight home." "Of course," Jennifer said. "What a traumatic experience. Do you want me to come over? I can bring you something to eat. You shouldn't be alone after something like that." "It's not necessary," I replied quickly. "I'm fine." I just need to rest. There was a pause, an uncomfortable silence. And then Jennifer asked something that chilled my blood. Did you talk to the police? Did you tell them what you saw? Yes, I said. They took my statement. But I couldn't see much. There were a lot of people. It all happened very fast. I understand, Jennifer said. Well, take good care of yourself. Anything you need, call me. We're family, Elsa. We'll always be here for you. Thanks, I murmured, and I hung up. Theodore looked at me with concern. She's checking, he said. She wants to know what you saw, what you told the police, if you're a threat. I know, I replied. That's why we have to act fast, before she does. At 6 o'clock on the dot, the doorbell rang. This time it was Ethan. I saw him through the peephole and opened the door immediately. My grandson rushed in like a storm. His eyes were red, as if he had been crying. His hands were shaking. He looked younger than his 16 years, scared, vulnerable. He hugged me tightly. I thought I had lost you, he whispered against my shoulder. I thought I was too late, that I hadn't saved you. You saved me, I told him, stroking his hair. Your call saved my life, Ethan. But I need you to tell me everything. How did you know? What did you discover? Ethan pulled away from me. He looked at Theodore with distrust. He's a friend, I assured him. You can trust him. Ethan nodded. The three of us sat in the living room, and my grandson began to speak. 2 weeks ago, he began, his voice trembling. I heard Mum talking on the phone. It was late. I was supposed to be asleep. But I got up for water and I heard her. She was in her room, talking to someone. Her voice sounded different, excited, thrilled. She was saying things like, "We'll have the money soon, just a little longer. No one will suspect anything." Go on, I encouraged him. The next day, I checked her phone. I know it was wrong, but something told me I had to do it. I found messages with someone named Christian. They were talking about you, Grandma, about your insurance policy, about how I would inherit when you died, about how they could use that money to start a new life together. What else did they say? Theodore asked. They talked about a plan, Ethan continued. They were going to make it look like an accident. They mentioned the station, your routine, your red dress. Christian said it would be easy. Lots of people. No one would see anything. Perfect. I felt the rage burn inside me. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, trying not to sound accusatory. I didn't know how, Ethan said, tears in his eyes. She's my mother, Grandma. I know she's wrong. I know she's a horrible person. But she's my mother, and I didn't want to believe she was capable of something like that. I thought maybe I had misunderstood, that I was jumping to conclusions. And what made you change your mind? Theodore asked. Last night, Ethan replied. I heard her talking again, this time with Christian in person. He came over when I was supposedly sleeping. I heard them in the living room. Christian told her that everything was ready for tomorrow, that he had been following the accountant, that she was also wearing a red dress, that if something went wrong with the first attempt, they would have to eliminate her too, because she knew too much. Diana, I murmured. Who is Diana? Ethan asked. The woman who died this morning, I explained. The woman who was trying to save me. The woman who died in my place. Ethan turned pale. Oh my God, he whispered. It's my fault. If I had spoken sooner. If I had gone to the police. It's not your fault, I told him firmly. The blame is Jennifer's and Christian's. They are the murderers. They planned this, and they will pay. But how? Ethan asked. We don't have proof. It's my word against theirs. A minor against his mother. No one will believe me." "You're right," Theodore said. "We need more than words. We need concrete evidence." "Diana's documents are a start," I said. "But we need something more. We need a confession, on audio or video, something irrefutable." "And how are we going to get that?" Ethan asked. I looked at both of them, and at that moment I knew exactly what to do. I was going to set a trap for them. I was going to use their own greed against them. I was going to make them believe they had won, and when they let down their guard, I would catch them. "I have a plan," I said, "but I need both of you to trust me, and to do exactly as I tell you." The plan was risky, dangerous even, but it was the only way to get the evidence we needed, the only way to make Jennifer and Christian incriminate themselves. I explained every detail to Ethan and Theodore. At first, my grandson resisted. "It's too dangerous, Grandma," he said, his voice trembling. "If something goes wrong, they could hurt you. They could really kill you this time." "That's why it won't go wrong," I replied with a calmness I didn't entirely feel. "Because this time we will be prepared. This time we will have witnesses. And this time they won't know we're waiting for them." Theodore supported my plan. "It's the only way. Elsa is right. If we go to the police now, without solid proof, Jennifer will say it's all a lie, that we're confused, that we're paranoid old people, and she'll be free to try again." Ethan finally accepted, although I could see the fear in his eyes. The fear of losing his only grandmother, the fear of confronting his mother, the fear that everything would go terribly wrong. "Okay," he whispered. "What do you need me to do?" I gave him precise instructions. He had to go back home and act normal. He couldn't let Jennifer suspect anything. He had to behave as always, quiet, obedient, the teenager she thought he was. And tomorrow morning, when Jennifer left for work, he had to check her phone again, take screenshots of everything, the messages with Christian, the conversations about the plan, the digital proof we needed. "But that won't be enough," Ethan said. "She'll say they were edited, that they're fake." "You're right," I admitted. "That's why we need something more. We need her to confess, in person, with witnesses." "And how will we achieve that?" he asked. I told them the second part of the plan, the most dangerous part. I was going to call Jennifer. I was going to tell her I was very shaken by the station incident, that I needed to see her, that I needed to talk about something important related to my will. That word, will, would be the perfect bait. Jennifer wouldn't be able to resist. She would come running, thinking she would finally get access to my money. "And when she arrives," I said, "I will record the entire conversation. I will make her talk. I will make her confess." "What if she doesn't confess?" Theodore asked. "What if she's smarter than that?" "Then we will use Plan B," I replied. "Ethan will tell her he knows everything, that he found the messages, that he's going to the police. Jennifer will panic. And when people panic, they make mistakes. They say things they shouldn't say." "It's manipulation," Ethan said softly. "It's justice," I corrected. "Diana died because of her, an innocent woman, and Jennifer cannot go unpunished. She cannot get away with it." Theodore put his hand on my shoulder. "You won't be alone in this, Elsa. I'll be here, hidden, but here. If something goes wrong, I'll intervene. I'll call the police. I'll do whatever is necessary to protect you." I thanked him with my eyes, and we set the plan in motion. Ethan went home around 7 o'clock. I made him promise he would text me when he arrived, that he would keep me informed of Jennifer's every move, that he wouldn't do anything reckless. Theodore stayed with me for a while longer. We reviewed every detail of the plan, every possible scenario, every emergency exit. At 8 o'clock, he went home, but he promised me he would be available all the time, that he would keep his phone on, that he would come running if I needed him. When I was alone, the house felt bigger than ever, more empty, more silent. I walked from room to room, thinking about everything that had happened within these walls. The birthdays, the Christmases, the laughter, the tears. My son taking his first steps in that living room. My husband reading the newspaper in that armchair. Ethan running down the hallway when he was little. This house had witnessed my entire life, my joys and my sorrows. And now, it was about to witness something else. My vengeance, my fight, my refusal to be a victim. I poured myself a glass of wine. I didn't usually drink, but tonight I needed it. I needed something to calm my nerves, something to silence the fear that threatened to paralyze me. I thought about Diana, about that woman I didn't know in life, but who gave her life trying to save mine. Who was she really? Did she have family, children, someone who was now mourning her absence? I searched the internet again. I found more information. Diana Mendoza, 42 years old, divorced, no children. She lived alone in a small apartment downtown. She had studied accounting at the State University. She had specialized in financial fraud after her father lost all his savings in a pyramid scheme. So Diana knew what it was like to lose. She knew what it was like to be a victim, and she had dedicated her life to preventing others from suffering the same. She was a hero, a brave woman who didn't stay quiet when she discovered evil, who didn't look away, who acted, and she died for it. I closed the laptop. I finished my glass of wine, and I made a decision. I would not allow Diana's death to be in vain. I would make her sacrifice mean something. I would bring Jennifer and Christian to justice, no matter the cost. At 9 o'clock, I received a text from Ethan. "I'm home now. Mum is acting normal. She asked me if I had gone to see you. I told her yes, that you were okay but a little shaken by the station thing." She smiled. "Grandma," it gave me the chills to see her smile like that, like she was happy you were traumatized. I replied quickly, "You are doing great. Keep acting normal. Tomorrow we begin." "Tomorrow," he replied. And then he added, "I love you, Grandma. Please be careful." "I love you too," I wrote. "Everything will be fine. Trust me." I barely slept that night. I stayed awake thinking about every detail, about every word I would say to Jennifer, about how I would provoke her into confessing. I had to be subtle, clever. I couldn't scare her. I had to make her feel safe, confident, victorious. At 3 in the morning, I finally fell asleep. But my dreams were full of trains, red dresses, and hands pushing from the shadows. I woke up several times, startled, my heart pounding and cold sweat on my back. At 7 o'clock, I got up. I showered. I dressed in comfortable clothes. I made strong coffee. And I waited. At 9 o'clock, a text came from Ethan. "Mum just left. I'm checking her phone." "Oh my God, Grandma. There are more messages, more plans. They didn't just want to kill you. They were also planning to take money from your account beforehand, forging your signature, slowly draining you so you wouldn't notice." "Take screenshots of everything," I replied, "and send them to me." Over the next 30 minutes, my phone filled with images, conversations between Jennifer and Christian, detailed plans, dates, times, bank accounts, amounts. It was worse than I had imagined. It wasn't just my insurance policy they wanted. It was everything. Every cent I had saved throughout my life. $500,000 from the insurance, plus $150,000 in my savings account, plus the value of the house, which, according to Jennifer's conversations with Christian, was worth around $300,000, almost $1 million in total. 1 million reasons to kill me. I felt sick. Not because of the money. The money was just paper, numbers on a screen. What hurt was the betrayal, the coldness, the calculation. Jennifer had planned every detail of my death with the same nonchalance with which someone plans a vacation. I took a deep breath. I saved the screenshots. And I called Jennifer. She answered on the third ring. "Elsa," she said with that sweet, false voice that now disgusted me. "How did you wake up?" "Bad," I lied. "I couldn't sleep. I keep seeing that scene over and over. The woman falling, the train, the blood." "Oh, poor Elsa," Jennifer said, with a feigned compassion that was almost comical. "It's normal. It was a very traumatic thing. Have you thought about talking to someone? A therapist?" "Maybe," I said. "But right now I need to talk to you. About something important." There was a pause. "About what?" "About my will," I said, dropping the words like a fishhook. "I've been thinking. After yesterday, I realized that I could die at any moment. And I need to make sure everything is in order. That Ethan is protected. That you are protected." I could feel her pulse racing on the other side of the line. "Of course," she said, trying to sound casual. "When do you want to talk?" "Today," I replied. "This afternoon. Can you come at 5 o'clock?" "Perfect," Jennifer said. "I'll be there. And Elsa, thank you for thinking of us. You're a great woman, a great grandmother." "I'll see you at 5 o'clock," I said, and hung up. I stayed looking at the phone. My hands were shaking, not with fear, with rage. That woman had murdered Diana. She had planned to murder me. And now she was coming to my house, thinking she would finally get what she wanted. But I had other plans. Plans that included justice, truth, and vengeance. I called Theodore. I told him about the appointment with Jennifer. He promised me he would be at my house at 4:30, that he would hide in the second-floor guest room, that he would record everything from there as a backup, and that if anything went wrong, he would intervene immediately. Then I called Ethan. I told him not to come, that it was too dangerous, that I would confront Jennifer alone. He protested, but finally accepted. "Just promise me you'll call the police if she admits anything," he said. "Promise me you won't risk yourself more than necessary." "I promise," I lied, because I knew I was going to take a risk, that I was going to push Jennifer to the limit, that I was going to do whatever was necessary to make her confess. The hours passed slowly. I prepared tea. I checked my voice recorder. I made sure it was charged and working. I hid it in the pocket of my sweater. Then I put my phone in recording mode too, hidden among the couch cushions. At 4:30, Theodore arrived. He went up to the guest room without making a sound. I stayed downstairs, waiting. My heart was beating so loudly I could hear it in my ears. At 5 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. Jennifer had arrived, and the trap was ready. I opened the door with surprisingly firm hands. Jennifer was there, smiling. She was wearing a stylish dress, perfect makeup, her hair pulled back in an impeccable bun. She looked radiant, happy, as if she didn't carry the weight of a murder on her shoulders. "Elsa," she said, hugging me with a warmth that made me shudder. She gave me 2 kisses on the cheek. Her perfume was sweet, cloying, like poison wrapped in flowers. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. She came in, looking around, as she always did. evaluating, calculating. Her eyes rested on the paintings, on the furniture, on every valuable object. I knew what she was thinking. How much is this worth? How much can I get for that? It's all mine. Soon it will all be mine. Do you want tea? I asked in a friendly voice. Please, she replied, sitting down on the couch, right where I had placed the recording phone among the cushions. Perfect. I went to the kitchen. I prepared the tea with calm hands. I took a deep breath. This, as it was the moment, I couldn't fail. I returned to the living room with 2 steaming mugs. I handed one to Jennifer and sat opposite her. Thank you for coming, I said. Of course, she replied, blowing on her tea. We're family, Elsa. I'll always be here for you, especially after what happened yesterday. It must have been horrible. It was, I said, letting my voice crack a little. Seeing that woman die, so close, it could have been me. Don't say that, Jennifer said with false concern. You're fine. You're safe. For now, I murmured. But at my age, you never know when the last day will be. That's why I wanted to talk to you. About the future. About Ethan. Jennifer's eyes sparkled. Tell me. I've been thinking about making changes to my will, I said, watching her reaction. I want to make sure that if something happens to me, Ethan is well taken care of. That he has everything he needs. That's very sensible, Jennifer said, leaning forward. What kind of changes are you considering? Well, I began. I have the insurance policy, $500,000, and my savings, and this house. It all adds up to quite a bit. It's a good amount, Jennifer said, trying to sound casual, but I could see the greed in her eyes. And it would all go to Ethan, right? That's the question, I said, taking a sip of tea. I've been thinking. Ethan is still very young, 16 years old. What happens if something happens to me now? He can't manage that money alone. Of course not, Jennifer said quickly. That's what I would be for. As his mother, as his legal guardian. I would manage everything until he's old enough. Exactly, I said, nodding. You would have total control over his inheritance, over my money. Well, technically it would be his money, Jennifer corrected. But yes, I would manage it. I would invest it wisely. I would make sure it lasts him, that he has a good future. And what about you? I asked, looking directly at her. What would you get out of all this? Jennifer blinked. What do you mean? I'm his mother, she said. You've raised Ethan alone since my son died. You've worked hard. You've sacrificed a lot. Don't you think you deserve something too? Something for yourself? I watched her shoulders relax. Ah, she said, smiling. Well, I suppose that would be fair. I mean, raising a child costs money, and time, and energy. Exactly, I said. That's why I was thinking of modifying my will, leaving a portion directly to you, not as Ethan's guardian, but as my daughter-in-law, as family. Jennifer's eyes lit up like a predator seeing its prey approach. Really, Elsa, that would be very generous of you. I was thinking about $100,000, I said, directly for you, so you can start your life over, find happiness, maybe even find someone new. Jennifer was silent for a moment. Then she said something that surprised me with its honesty. How did you know? About what? I asked, feigning innocence. About Christian, she said quietly. About me seeing someone. Ethan mentioned it to me, I lied. He said he saw a man leaving your house one morning. Jennifer sighed. I was going to tell you, Elsa. I really was. But I didn't know how. I thought maybe you would be upset. that you would feel like I was betraying your son's memory. My son is dead, I said firmly. He died 3 years ago, and you are alive. You have the right to be happy, to start your life over. I don't judge you for that, Jennifer. Thank you, she said, and for the first time, I saw something close to real emotion on her face. It means a lot to me to hear that. Christian is a good man. We love each other. We want to build a future together. And that future costs money, I said. Jennifer remained silent. Then she nodded slowly. Yes, we have plans. We want to buy a house, start a business, but all that requires capital. And well, I haven't been very good at managing my money these years. I know, I said softly. I know you have debts, Jennifer. I know you've been struggling. How? She began to ask. But I interrupted her. Because I am your mother-in-law, I said. Because I worry about you, about Ethan, about this family, and I want to help. Jennifer looked at me with tears in her eyes. Would you really do that, Elsa? Would you really change your will to include me? Yes, I said, but there's something I need to understand first. What is it? She asked, tensing up. The woman who died yesterday at the station, I said, observing every micro-expression on her face. The one wearing the red dress. Do you know who she was? Jennifer went very still. No, she said slowly. Why do you ask? Because I've been thinking, I said. It's a very strange coincidence. I was going to wear my red dress that day, the one I like so much, but Ethan called me early and asked me not to wear it. And then a woman in a dress exactly like mine dies at the station where I was supposed to be. Doesn't that strike you as strange? These things happen, Jennifer said, but her voice had lost its warmth. Tragic coincidences. Coincidences. Coincidences, I repeated. Jennifer, that woman's name was Diana Mendoza. She was a forensic accountant, specialized in financial fraud. I watched her turn pale. And what does that have to do with me? I think you know, I said, leaning forward. I think Diana was investigating you. I think she discovered something she shouldn't have discovered. And I think someone wanted to silence her. You're talking crazy, Elsa, Jennifer said, standing up. Yesterday's trauma has you confused. You should rest. Sit down, Jennifer, I said in a firm voice. We're not finished. I'm not going to listen to any more of this, she said, heading for the door. I have the messages, I let slip. The messages between you and Christian, planning my death, planning to steal my money, everything. Jennifer froze. She turned around slowly. Her face had completely changed. The mask of sweetness had disappeared. In its place was something cold, dangerous. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. I know exactly what I'm talking about, I replied. I know you followed me, that you studied my routine, that you planned to push me in front of the train. But Diana got there first, trying to warn me. And Christian mistook her for me. He killed her, believing it was me. Prove it, Jennifer said with an icy smile. I don't need to prove it to you, I said. I need to prove it to the police, and I will. I have the documents Diana left me. I have the screenshots of your messages. I have witnesses. Witnesses, Jennifer laughed. Who? Ethan. He's a child. My son. He'll say whatever I tell him to say. Ethan is no longer afraid of you, I said. He's no longer under your control. Jennifer took a step toward me. Her expression was now completely different, threatening. You should be careful, Elsa. Accidents happen, especially to old women who live alone, who fall down the stairs, who forget to turn off the stove, who have heart problems. Are you threatening me? I asked, feeling the adrenaline rush through my veins. I'm telling you the truth, she replied. If you go to the police with those ridiculous accusations, you will regret it. Christian and I will make sure of that. Christian, I repeated. Your accomplice. The man who pushed Diana. The murderer. It was an accident, Jennifer said, shrugging. The wrong woman at the wrong time. These things happen. I felt sick. How can you be so cold? Diana was innocent. She was a good person. And you killed her. I didn't kill her, Jennifer said. I wasn't even there. You can't prove anything, Elsa. And if you try to destroy me, I'll take Ethan. I'll take him away from you. You'll never see him again. That was your mistake, I said, standing up, threatening me with the only thing I have left, with my grandson. My mistake, Jennifer laughed. And what was your mistake, Elsa? My mistake, I said, was believing you were part of this family, that you cared about us, that you had a heart. A heart doesn't pay the bills, Jennifer said. Money does. Your money. And I'll have it. One way or another. Not if I can help it, I replied. Jennifer moved closer. We were face to face now. So close I could see the hatred in her eyes. You're a foolish old woman, she whispered, and foolish old women don't live long. It was at that moment that Theodore came down the stairs. Jennifer turned around, startled. Her face showed shock, terror, and finally, comprehension. This was all a trap, she said, looking at me. You recorded me. Every word, I confirmed. Jennifer backed away like a cornered animal. Her eyes darted frantically between Theodore and me, searching for an exit, a way to escape the trap she had fallen into. Her face had lost all colour. Her hands were shaking. This isn't legal, she said in a sharp voice. You can't record me without my consent. It won't stand up as evidence. Actually, it does, Theodore said calmly. In this state, only one party's consent is needed in a private conversation. And Elsa consented. This is her own home. Everything you said here was recorded. Jennifer laughed, a hysterical, sharp laugh, full of desperation. You think you've won, don't you? You think a recording is going to destroy me. It's not just the recording, I said. It's the messages, the financial documents, Ethan's testimony, the station's security cameras. Everything together paints a very clear picture. Jennifer, you and Christian planned my murder, and in the process, you killed an innocent woman. No one will believe you, Jennifer said, but her voice had lost conviction. I'm a widow, a single mother. You are a paranoid old woman and her nosy friend. Who do you think the police will believe? The evidence, Theodore replied. The evidence doesn't lie. Jennifer collapsed onto the sofa. She buried her face in her hands. For a moment I thought she would cry, that she would break, that maybe, deep down somewhere, there was still something human in her. But when she lifted her head, there was only rage. This is your fault, she spat at me. If you had died when you were supposed to, none of this would have happened. Diana would still be alive. Ethan wouldn't have to choose between his mother and his grandmother. Everything would be easier. Easier, I repeated, incredulous. Easier if I were dead? Yes, Jennifer said, standing up. Because you are the obstacle. You and your money and your house and your insurance policy. Everything that should be mine. Everything I deserve after all I've suffered. You deserve nothing, I said in an icy voice. Not after what you did. Not after planning to murder me. Not after killing Diana. Diana was a problem, she said, and she was snooping where she shouldn't be, investigating things that were none of her business. Christian followed her for days. We knew she was coming to warn you. So we decided to kill both of you in one blow. 2 birds with 1 stone. I felt my stomach churn. How can you talk like that? How can you be so monstrous? Monstrous, Jennifer laughed. I'm the monstrous one. Look around. Elsa, you live in this huge house, alone, sitting on a fortune while the rest of us struggle to survive, while I work 2 jobs to support your grandson, while Christian and I kill ourselves trying to get ahead, and you here, hoarding everything. That money was earned by my husband, I said firmly. He worked for 40 years. He sacrificed. He saved. He planned our future. I'm not going to apologize for that. But he's dead, Jennifer said. And your son's dead. And you are old. What do you need so much money for? What good is it if you don't use it? I am using it, I replied. To live, to take care of myself, and to ensure Ethan has a future away from you. You can't take him away from me, Jennifer shouted. I'm his mother. The law is on my side. The law is on the side of justice, Theodore said. And when we present these recordings to the police, when they show the messages and the evidence, you will lose custody of Ethan. You will go to prison for murder, for conspiracy, for attempted murder. Jennifer was silent for a long moment. Then her expression changed. It softened. Tears began to stream down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. I am so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. The stress, the debts. Christian, he convinced me. He told me it would be easy, that no one would suspect. I didn't want to do it. I really didn't. I don't believe you, I said. Not one word. It's true, Jennifer sobbed. I was desperate. Christian pressured me. He said if we didn't get the money soon, he would leave me. And I couldn't lose him. I couldn't be alone again. So you decided to kill me, I said without emotion. That was your solution. I didn't plan it, Jennifer said. It was Christian. He had the idea. He investigated your routine. He followed Diana. I just didn't stop him. That makes you just as guilty, Theodore said. Accessory to murder. Please, Jennifer begged, kneeling in front of me. Please, Elsa. Think about Ethan. If they put me in prison, what will become of him? He'll be alone, without a mother, without family. He has me, I said. And that's more than you've given him in years. You can't take him away from me, Jennifer cried. He's my son, my baby. I love him. If you loved him, I said, leaning toward her, you wouldn't have planned to murder his grandmother. You wouldn't have put him in this position. You wouldn't have forced him to choose between right and wrong. Jennifer wiped away her tears. Her expression changed again, from pleading to calculating. What do you want? Money. I can get money. Christian has contacts. We can pay you. Whatever it takes. I don't want your money, I said. I want justice. For Diana. For me. For Ethan. Justice, Jennifer spat. Justice doesn't exist. Only power exists. And whoever has the money has the power. Then you haven't learned anything, I said sadly. After all this, you still believe that money is the only thing that matters. And what else matters? Jennifer asked, standing up. Love? Family? Those are just pretty words people say. In the end, we all do whatever it takes to survive. You weren't surviving, I said. You were being greedy. There's a difference. Jennifer looked at me with pure hatred. You're going to regret this, she said. Christian won't stand idly by. When he knows I failed, he'll come for you. And next time there won't be any warnings. There won't be any wrong dresses. Just death. That's another threat, Theodore said, pulling out his phone. I think we have enough. I'm calling the police. No, Jennifer said in a panic. Wait, we can make a deal. Please. There is no possible deal, I said. Diana is dead. Nothing can change that. And you are going to pay for what you did. Theodore dialed the number. Jennifer lunged at him, trying to grab the phone. He backed away quickly. I stepped between them. Don't you dare, I told Jennifer in a voice of steel. She pushed me. I lost my balance. I fell backward. My hip hit the coffee table. The pain was instant and sharp. Theodore dropped the phone and rushed toward me. Jennifer seized the moment. She grabbed her purse and ran for the door. She threw it open and ran out. We heard her running down the stairs, her heels clacking against the cement, the sound of a car starting up. She's gone, Theodore said, helping me sit up. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said, although the pain in my hip suggested otherwise. Call the police. Tell them what happened. Tell them that Jennifer and Christian Maldonado are suspects in Diana Mendoza's murder. Tell them we have proof. Theodore picked up his phone and dialed. As he spoke to the operator, I thought about Jennifer running away, about Christian waiting for her somewhere, about the two of them planning their next move. But this time we were prepared. This time we had evidence. This time we were not defenseless victims. We were warriors, fighters, and we would not give up until justice prevailed. The police arrived in 15 minutes, 2 officers first, then a detective. We handed over the recordings, the screenshots, Diana's documents. We told them everything. From Ethan's call to Jennifer's confession, from the murder at the station to the threats this afternoon. The detective, a man about 50 years old, with tired but intelligent eyes, listened carefully to everything. He took notes, he asked questions, and finally he said the words I needed to hear. We have enough to arrest her, both her and Christian Maldonado. We will issue arrest warrants immediately. We will put surveillance on her house, her job, all the places she frequents. They won't get far. And Ethan, I asked, my grandson. He's at Jennifer's house right now. We will send a patrol car, the detective said. We will get him out of there and bring him to you. Can you take care of him while we resolve this? Of course, I replied. He's my grandson. I will do whatever is necessary to protect him. The detective nodded. You are a brave woman, ma'am. Not many people your age can face a killer like that. When they underestimate you your whole life, I said, you learn to be stronger than you look. The detective smiled. I believe it. We will stay in touch. If Jennifer or Christian try to contact you, don't answer. Call us immediately. I will, I promised. The police left. Theodore stayed with me. We made more tea. We sat in silence, processing everything that had happened. Outside, the sun was beginning to set. The sky was stained with oranges and pinks. It was beautiful. Life continued, despite the horror, despite the death, despite everything. My phone rang. It was Ethan. Grandma, he said, she tried to hurt you. Is it true? It's true, I replied. But I'm fine. Come home, Ethan. Come with me. You'll be safe here. I'm coming, he said. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, my child. I love you too. Ethan arrived half an hour later, escorted by a police officer. I saw him get out of the patrol car with a backpack on his shoulder and eyes red from crying. He ran toward me and hugged me with a strength that almost made me lose my balance. I felt him trembling against my chest, his breath coming in ragged gasps, his whole world having fallen apart in a matter of hours. I'm sorry, he whispered over and over. I'm so sorry, Grandma. I should have told you sooner. I should have done something sooner. You did exactly what you should have done, I told him, stroking his hair. You saved my life, Ethan. You were brave when I needed you most. The officer said goodbye after confirming that Ethan was safe with me. She gave us an emergency number in case Jennifer or Christian tried to contact us. Then she left, leaving us in the heavy silence of the house. Theodore made dinner. Nothing elaborate, just soup and bread, but it was exactly what we needed. Something warm, something comforting. We ate at the kitchen table, the three of us in silence. Ethan barely touched his food. He looked at his plate as if it contained answers he couldn't find. "Where do you think she is?" he finally asked. "My mum. Where could she have gone?" "I don't know," I replied honestly. "But the police will find her. She can't hide forever." "And Christian?" he asked. "Are they looking for him too?" "Yes," Theodore said. "There are arrest warrants for both of them. For murder. For conspiracy. For attempted murder." Ethan put down his spoon. He closed his eyes. "My mum is a murderer," he said quietly. "I can't believe it. I can't process that the woman who gave me life took the life of another person." "Sometimes the people we think we know," I said, taking his hand, "turn out to be completely different from what we thought. This is not your fault, Ethan. None of this is your fault." "But I'm her son," he said, tears streaming down his cheeks. "What does that say about me? What if I carry her blood? Do I carry her evil too?" "It doesn't work that way," Theodore said firmly. "You are not your mother. You are your own person, and you have shown yourself to have a noble heart. You did the right thing when it was difficult, when it hurt. That's what defines you, not blood, choices." Ethan nodded, but I could see that he still carried a guilt that was not his to bear. That night I set him up in the guest room. I gave him clean sheets, towels, everything he might need. I told him this was his home now, that it always had been, that he would never be alone again. Theodore stayed late. We checked the news. They had already published information about the case. "Mother and son. Wanted for premeditated murder," one headline read. "Tragedy at the station. Accountant's death revealed as planned murder," another said. The media didn't have all the details yet, but the story was beginning to come to light. My phone rang around 11 o'clock that night. It was the detective. "Mrs. Elsa," he said. "We have news. We found Christian Maldonado." "Where?" I asked. "He tried to cross the state line," he explained. "They stopped him at a checkpoint. He is in custody now. He pleaded innocent, but with the evidence we have, he won't get far." "And Jennifer?" I asked, holding my breath. "Still nothing," he admitted. "But we have surveillance in every possible place. Airports, bus stations, even family homes. She'll turn up. They always do." "I hope you're right," I said. "We are," he assured me. "Rest, Mom. You've had a very long day. We'll keep you informed." I hung up and told Theodore. He seemed relieved. That night I slept little. Every noise startled me. Every creak in the house made me think Jennifer had returned, that she was coming to finish what she had started. I checked the locks 3 times, the windows, the back door. Everything was secured, but the fear wouldn't go away. At 3 in the morning, I went downstairs for water. I found Ethan in the kitchen, sitting in the dark. "I couldn't sleep," he said when I turned on the light. "Me neither," I admitted, sitting beside him. We stayed there, in shared silence, 2 people trying to process the unprocessable. Finally, Ethan spoke. "Do you think I'll ever trust anyone again?" he asked. "After this? After finding out that my own mother wanted to kill the person I love most in the world?" "Yes," I replied. It will take time. It will hurt. But you will trust again, because despite all the bad that happened, there was also goodness. Diana tried to save you. Theodore helped us. You fought for me. The world is not just darkness, Ethan. There is light, too. I want to believe it, he said. Then believe it, I told him, because it's true. The following days were a whirlwind. Statements at the precinct, interviews with prosecutors, meetings with lawyers. Ethan had to testify too. It was hard for him, but he did it bravely. He told everything he had heard, everything he had seen, everything he knew. Christian broke during the interrogations. He confessed everything. The plan, the following, the moment at the station when he pushed Diana, believing it was me. He tried to blame Jennifer. He said she had been the mastermind behind everything, that he was just a pawn. But the messages showed another reality. They showed two equally guilty people, equally monstrous. Jennifer was still missing. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3. The police expanded the search. They circulated her photo on national media. Someone had to have seen her. Someone had to know where she was. Ethan started therapy, a psychologist specializing in family trauma. At first he resisted. I don't want to talk about her, he would say. I want to forget. But eventually he understood that forgetting was not healing, that to move forward he had to process what had happened. I went to therapy too. It turned out that surviving an attempted murder leaves invisible scars, nightmares, anxiety, fear of leaving the house, fear of trusting, fear of living. But I worked on it, day by day, step by step. 1 month after the incident, a call came. The detective. We found her, he said. Patricia is in custody. Where was she? I asked. In a small town 300 miles from here, he explained. She was living under a false identity, working in a restaurant. She thought she could disappear, start over, but someone recognized her from the news and called. What happens now? I asked. The trial, he replied. Both she and Christian will face charges: first-degree murder, conspiracy, attempted murder. With the evidence we have, they will spend decades in prison. Decades, I repeated. It wasn't life. It wasn't perfect justice. But it was something. I told Ethan. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he asked, Can I see her? Before the trial? Are you sure? I asked. I need to, he said. I need to ask her why. I need to hear it from her. And so we did. We requested a visit. It was approved. And on a cold winter morning, Ethan and I went to the jail where they were holding Jennifer. We saw her through a glass partition. She was wearing the orange uniform. No makeup, no jewelry. Without the mask she had always worn. She looked small, defeated, almost human. Ethan picked up the phone. She did the same. They looked at each other, mother and son, separated by glass and unforgivable crimes. Why? Ethan asked. His voice broke. That's all I want to know. Why? Jennifer closed her eyes. Tears ran down her cheeks. Because I lost my way, she finally said. Because the pain of losing your father turned me into someone I don't recognize. Because the fear of being left with nothing made me make terrible decisions. And because in the end, I chose money over everything else. Over you. Over morality. Over myself. Did you ever love me? Ethan asked. I love you, Jennifer said. I have always loved you. But it wasn't enough. And that is the most painful truth of all. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. In the end, Ethan hung up the phone. He stood up. He looked at his mother one last time, and he walked away. He didn't say goodbye. There was no forgiveness, just an ending. The trial began 6 months later. It was long, exhausting, painful. I had to testify. Ethan, too. We relived every moment of those terrible days, every lie, every threat, every second of fear. Christian tried to negotiate. He offered to testify against Jennifer in exchange for a reduced sentence. The prosecutors accepted. He took the stand and told everything, how he had met Jennifer at a support group for widows, how the relationship had started innocently, but had become toxic, how she had mentioned my money over and over, until the idea of stealing it became an obsession, how together they had planned every detail of my death, and how he had pushed Diana Mendoza, believing it was me. Jennifer defended herself. She rejected her public defender. She said no one could tell her story better than herself. It was a mistake. She talked too much. She contradicted herself. She showed the same coldness she had shown me that afternoon in my living room. The jury saw her. They recognized her. And they convicted her. 40 years in prison for Jennifer. 25 for Christian. It wasn't life without parole, but it meant they would spend most of their lives behind bars. It meant justice. Not perfect, but real. When the verdict was read, Jennifer looked at me. There was no hatred in her eyes, nor regret, just emptiness, as if something inside her had been extinguished forever. Ethan didn't look at her. He kept his eyes forward, his jaw clenched, his tears held back. We left the courthouse holding hands. Reporters were waiting for us. They wanted statements. They wanted emotions. They wanted the show. But I only said one thing. This is for Diana Mendoza, a brave woman who died trying to do the right thing. May her memory be a blessing. The months that followed were for healing. Ethan officially moved in with me. We turned the guest room into his bedroom. We painted the walls the color he chose. We bought new furniture, books, a computer for his studies. We filled that space with life, with hope, with future. He finished the school year with good grades. He made new friends. He started smiling again. It wasn't the same smile as before. It carried the scars of what he had lived through, but it was genuine. It was healing in progress. I healed too. The nightmares lessened. The next day, I returned to the station. It was difficult. My hands trembled. My heart raced. But I did it. I took the subway. I reached my destination. And when I got off, I felt something akin to victory. Theodore became a permanent part of our lives. He had dinner with us twice a week. He helped Ethan with his math homework. He accompanied me to my doctor's appointments. He became the grandfather Ethan needed, the friend I had lost years ago. I used part of my money to create a foundation in Diana Mendoza's name, an organization that helped victims of financial fraud, that offered free legal advice, that fought against scammers and opportunists. Diana had dedicated her life to protecting others. Now her legacy would continue. On the first anniversary of her death, we held a memorial. Her colleagues attended, people she had helped, strangers who had read her story and been moved. We planted a tree in the park near the station. A plaque read, "Diana Mendoza, Silent Hero. She will not be forgotten." Ethan read a poem he had written. It spoke of bravery, of sacrifice, of how sometimes angels don't have wings but red dresses. I cried listening to him. I cried for Diana, for everything she had lost, for everything she had given. One afternoon, months later, Ethan and I were in the garden. He was working on a school project. I was watering the flowers I had planted that year. Red roses, in memory, in tribute. "Grandma," he said suddenly, "will you ever forgive her? My mom." I stopped. I put down the watering can. I sat down next to him. The question was fair, important. It deserved an honest answer. I don't know, I finally said. Part of me wants to be able to, wants to believe that forgiveness is possible, that it's the right thing. But another part, the part that remembers the terror of that morning, the part that thinks of Diana dead on the tracks, that part can't. Not yet. Maybe never. Is it wrong that I can't either? Ethan asked. No, I replied. It's not wrong. Forgiveness is not mandatory. It's not something you owe the person who hurt you. It's something you give when you're ready. If you are someday, and if you never are, that's okay too. Thank you for being honest, he said. A lot of people tell me I should forgive her, that she's my mother, that someday I'll understand. But I don't think I will. I don't think I'll understand how she could try to kill the person I love most. I hugged him, long, hard, my grandson, my joy, my reason to keep going. I finally donated the red dress to a charity. I couldn't keep it in my closet. It was beautiful, but it was stained with memories too painful. I hoped someone else could use it, that for that person it would just mean a pretty dress, nothing more, nothing less. Life continued. As it always does, the seasons changed. Summer came with its suffocating heat. Then autumn with its golden leaves. Ethan turned 17. He started thinking about colleges, about careers, about futures. He talked about studying law. I want to help people like Diana, he would say. I want to make sure justice isn't just a pretty word. I was getting older, 65 now. My knees protested more, my back ached more frequently, but I was alive, awake, present. And that was more than Jennifer had planned for me. One night, almost 2 years after everything, I was in my room getting ready for bed when I found something at the bottom of a drawer. An old photograph of my son, Ethan's father, smiling, young, full of life and promise. I spoke to him as I used to when he had just died. I miss you, I told him, every day, but I think you would be proud of Ethan, of me, of how we fought, of how we survived. The wind moved the curtains. A cool breeze came through the window. And for a moment, just for a moment, I felt peace. Because in the end, that was what we had achieved. Not revenge, not destruction. Peace. The peace of knowing we had done the right thing, that we had honored Diana, that we had protected Ethan, that we had faced the darkness and emerged, scarred but whole, on the other side. I went to bed that night thinking about the red dress, about Ethan's call, about how a simple warning had saved my life, and I understood, finally, completely, the reason for everything. My grandson had called me at 6 in the morning because he loved me, because he chose truth over blind loyalty, because he was braver than any adult in that situation, and because, in the end, true love is not staying quiet. It's speaking up. It's warning. It's saving. I closed my eyes, and I slept without nightmares for the first time in 2 years. Life after horror is possible. It's difficult. It's full of scars. But it is possible. And we were the living proof of it.